all this time, I think we were looking at the little bit of theory on the design, right? So first we started looking at the elements of design. So we realized there were 4 elements. There's line, shape, form, and then the texture in design. And then after that, we looked at fundamentals of design, how to put things together, how to use color, for example, right? So that is one of the biggest confusing areas, like selecting the right color for your work. So we looked at the color theory, color harmony, we looked at the color wheel, how to select the appropriate colors, things like that. And then we looked at the role of the images, why images are required. And more than that, we also looked at from where to get the high quality images, sometimes free of charge, sometimes purchase it. Okay, so that's the kind of theory we went through. And today, I think with all the basic knowledge we accumulate so far, we can look at our first tool in this session, Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop is the complete name of this tool. This is a pretty old tool when it comes to editing pictures and photos. This is one of the tools, in fact, one of the best tools out there in the market, but this is not the only tool. There are so many other similar tools available as well. You could get a student evaluation version for 1 year from Adobe if you want to. And then there are, if you're not interested, there are also other tools like Corel Photo Paint. Then there is a GIMP for Linux. It is also available for PC as well. So those are some of the tools available. And then there are hundreds of other tools available as well. So if you look at some of the compatibilities, here's a list just to have a look at it. Yeah, this is called the Photoshop alternatives. Now this is 2022 top 10 alternatives. Right? Affinity is one such tool, and it is available on Mac, Windows only. No free version, so it's to be purchased. Then there is Procreate. Then there is Photopea. In fact, Photopea is web-based. It's like Photoshop on the web, and it is free. Right? You can use it immediately. So if you have a slow computer where you cannot install Photoshop, then this is the best option for you. And then Rebel is another one. Artrage is another beautiful tool. Then we have Krita. It is again free, also available for Linux. And then we have Sketch, another fantastic tool, only on Mac, I suppose. And this one, GIMP, is an open source version, free. It is freely available. Pixelmator is another tool. Pixela is another, free browser based again. Right? You don't have to install anything, it works on the web. Right, so that's the 10th version, so 10th alternative. Okay, so Photoshop is not the only one available out there, as you can see, but is no doubt one of the best, used by many professionals around the world for some great work. So let's dive into Photoshop and first understand what we can do, and then we get into doing some actual work with Photoshop. Okay, so let me switch to Photoshop now. Right, so this is my Adobe Photoshop. When I start it, this is what I get. So it is offering me a place to either to start something or to edit that is already there. Up here, I have various sizes, right? These are called preset sizes. Say if I'm designing a website, okay, I go here. So what is the website I'm looking at? This is a laptop resolution, full HD resolution, another certain monitor resolution, Apple resolution, MacBook Pro 3, stuff like that. Or are you designing something for the mobile phone? So again, we get mobile phone specific sizes. So I go to photo, and here I have 7:5, 3:2, 6:4. It's all there. Okay. So let me get this 3:2 Photoshop, photo in landscape mode. Now I can, of course, after selecting, I can also change it here if I want to. And then again, as you notice, the dimensions are here with 3, 2, and what is the unit? Inches, centimeters, millimeters, whatever. So right now it is giving me 3:2 inches photo. And remember, we talked about the color models, RGB and CMYK. Okay, we have it here. Apart from that, we also have other things, bitmap, grayscale, lab color. So I'm not interested in any of that. I'll have RGB color here. Then what do you want for the background? Do you want white, black? Do you want anything else? Or do you want transparent? Whatever. So I'm going to keep it at white. And then this is another important one. Remember, when we talk about resolution, we said it's a pixel per inch or dots per inch, right? So you can also select pixel per centimeter. So 300 is like a very high resolution. I'm going to go with 100 here. And I'm done now. So again, 3:2 inches, landscape, 100 pixels per inch, RGB color with a white background. I also have other advanced options like color profile and things like that, which I'm not interested right now. So I'm going to click create and see what I get. Okay, something happened and I see my Photoshop screen here now. Oh boy, that's a very small area I have. That's okay. Okay, so now you may have noticed I have a very large area in the middle. It's all black with a white box here. This white box is called the canvas area. This is where I actually do my work, my drawing and things like that. It looks small, but that's all right. And if you notice carefully, this screen, apart from the middle, I have something on the top, I have something on the left, something on the right, and then something on the bottom. So there are 4 areas, actually 5 areas, including the middle. Okay. Now, when you walk into an artist room, a physical artist room, you will see a lot of stuff in its table. Yeah. There is water bottle, there is ink tubes, then there is watercolor, then there are sponges, there are clothes, and then there is a canvas. So the artist will be using all those tools on the table, of course, brushes and things like that, to draw a masterpiece on the canvas. So the concept is very similar. So what you see on the left-hand side is called the toolbox. These are the tools we have. So if you look at it very carefully, you will notice there is a brush here. Then we have an eyedropper to pick up colors. We have an eraser. We have a pen. We have certain preset tools. Then we have a hand. Then we have some colors here, right? So all these things are tools for the artist. So if you don't know what it is, you don't need to remember. You can move your cursor and just put it there. It will tell you what it does. Okay, here it says brush tool. And if I do nothing and leave the cursor there, there's a little animation going on. And if you need to know more, you can in fact click this link here that says learn how, right? You don't need to go anywhere. It loads the information right inside the Photoshop. In fact, it gives you a tutorial now. See, there are 5 steps here. Paint with the brush tool. So I can click next and start immediately doing it. It tells you what to do. Select the brush tool in the toolbar, and then it is showing me this. Okay, brush tool. Open the brush settings in the options bar. Okay, here the options bar. And then set the brush size to around 60 pixels. So here. Okay. And around 30% hardness. Okay. So press enter. Done. And then click and run on the canvas to paint with your brush. Yeah, now I'm painting. Uh-oh, that's a bad color. So I just want to show you that there is a tutorial like this. So you can go on and learn yourself how to use a certain tool. If you don't want it, you can close it here. So similarly, all the others have certain help and tutorial as well. This is called path selection. Text, right? And the eraser tool, right? Eyedropper to pick up colors. This is called the quick selection. So anyway, we will go through these tools separately so that you will have a very good understanding of how these tools are used. So that's on the left-hand side. By the way, now this is another important icon. Now this one, also you need to be very careful because some of these icons have a tiny little arrow on the bottom right-hand corner. Did you notice? Tiny little one. So that means if I click and hold, I will get more tools here. And this is an important one because when I do a click and hold, my God, I have lots of other tools available as well. Now, since there are too many tools, right? There are too many tools. They are put inside this one little icon. So if you need a certain tool, you just go and click it and that comes there. Right? Say burn tool, for example, there the burn tool comes. Okay. So likewise. So that's on the left-hand side. That's called the toolbox. Also, after the tools, at the bottom, you see two colors. Now, Photoshop uses two colors. One is called the foreground color, the color you are using to paint and do various things. And the other color is known as the background color, meaning you use that color to paint backgrounds and things like that, right? In fact, you can use it to store colors. You keep one color in one box, another color in another box, like that, right? Either way. Okay, that's on the left-hand side. Now, if you move to the right-hand side, you get more icons here also. Right, now they're not tools to pick and use, but they are actually, I would say, properties. Right, where, for example, colors. This is where you select colors. Okay, I selected red now. How do I know I selected red? Look at the box here. I selected red color. And if I use the control key, I can select the background color as well, right? So here I selected the background color as purple by clicking here with the control key down on the keyboard. So I now have two colors selected. Okay. So likewise, we have another way to select colors. Now here I can go anywhere and select any color I want. Unlike here, this is preset colors. And then I have history, meaning if I made a mistake, I can go back and get it again to me. Now, brush is a big tool in Photoshop. We use it to draw all sorts of things. And on this side, we have a brush profile. You can select all kinds of brushes. Remember, a brush is one of the most fundamental and primary tools in the painting program. Even for an artist, he will have a great collection of brushes. Brushes with, standard brushes, tiny brushes, brushes for painting large areas, brushes to paint very precise small areas, brushes made out of, various things. Okay, so we'll spend some time there. And then, so that's the tutorial section, by the way. So if you need fundamental skills, you can go here. If you want to look at some projects, they are here. How to fix photographs, they are here, right? Lots of things are here anyways. So this is for characters, types, and things like that. Then we have layers, for example, here, right? Channels. So we'll get to this in a minute. This is again another very important area when it comes to Photoshop work. So especially the layers one. Okay. So now we know left hand side, we know right hand side. What's on the top now? If you notice, this area is changing whenever I select something. Let's say if I click this, there things change. If I select brush, I get brush related things. If I click, let's say this guy, I get maybe another set, right? So things are changing here depending on what you click on the toolbox, right? You can say fine tuning the toolbox maybe here. For example, when I select T, that is text, I get font name, for example, all the fonts installed in my computer. And if I click brush, I get brush related things. So of course, this is a shortcut to that. But if I want quick changes, I can use it from the top here. Above this is our standard menu, right? Any program has a standard menu like new, open, save, close, exit. It's all here. So we have some interesting stuff under various menus. We will get to that when we want it. Now, when you start for the first time, there are a couple of things you do with this menu, right? One is to arrange, if you have multiple work, to arrange it. Otherwise, you go to the workspace and select a suitable workspace for you. Now, what is a workspace? Well, workspace arranges all these icons and various things so that you can get your work done faster. Now, I have a couple of things. I have essentials, I have 3D, I have graphics and web, motion, painting, photography. Now, right now, I'm on graphics and web. So if I click on photography, for example, what will I get? Oh, my interface changed, isn't it? On the right-hand side, I have navigation, histogram, stuff like that. I have layers down here. So immediately things change. And the icons, the tools also change somewhat. And if I go to paint, I get another one, set of brushes, maybe colors, maybe. And this toolbar also changed to one column from two columns. So that's on the workspace. And then we have various other things to get more detail. For example, you want, let's say, character related things, right? You click that, it opens up here. Now you notice I already have that icon here. I could have clicked here as well, right? This is another way to get there. And a couple of other things that I generally do when I start Photoshop is I enable the ruler. What is the ruler? This is the ruler here. So this ruler shows our position and the size of our material. Now, where do I turn it on? Go to show and then ruler. Okay, here, actually. there is a tick mark in front, which means ruler is on. So if I click again, ruler is gone. Right? So I turn on the rulers, and also another thing to turn on is snap. What is snap? Snap is to get attached or glue to closer things. For example, I can snap to guides, layers, or bounds. So I'll show you what it actually means. It allows you to draw things very fast and accurate. Very fast and accurate. I guess we are now done with the menu and the tools. The last one is down here. Okay. Now this also time to time changes depending on what you are using. So right now I don't see anything other than the scratch memory. Let me see. Nothing much. All right, I'm going to leave it as it is. Okay. So what is the workspace I'm in? Painting. Okay, let me get graphics. I'll keep it simple there. Right. I'll need layers. So I'll see what is happening. Right. Now we know the tools. Okay. Maybe in the beginning it looks like very confusing, but when you start using things, you will realize it's actually not that difficult at all. So the first tool here is called the move tool, meaning you use that to move things, right? And then we have the brush tool that allows you to brush or use the brush to draw whatever you like. Now I'm going to use those two, right? Now before I do that, I also need to go to the layers tool. And I realize I have only one layer. What do you mean by a layer? Well, a layer is like layered biscuit, layered cake, or a layered book maybe, where you have multiple sheets keeping on top of each other. And since these layers in Photoshop are transparent, unless you fill it with some colors, you can see through the layers, right? So now I have a white color background layer, which I'm going to leave as it is, but I'm going to create a new layer on top of the background layer. How do I do that? By clicking these icons here. There are a lot of icons here. If you look at the last one is the trash can or the bin. One before that is the create new layer icon. So if I click that, oh, I got a layer one. And by the way, you can select layers by clicking on it. So now I am on layer one. Okay. And I'm going to use a brush. And let's see whether I can draw something. Yep, I can. I can draw. And you see, in layer one, I drew something. All right, so let's try another layer now, layer two. This time I'm going to change the colors by clicking this little arrow so that it flips the colors. And see now, I have two layers. So if I turn this off by clicking here, there's an eye in front of the layer. If I close the eye, that layer will be hidden. This is how you use layers, right? Okay, I can have another layer. I can change the colors if I want to. Then I can have another layer. Right, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers. And I can individually turn on and turn off these layers. That's the beauty of layers here. And I can also rename these layers if I want. For example, I can double click here. I can say letter 1, for example. So now that layer is called letter 1, right? So likewise, you can basically play and do some great things with the layers. It's a very, very powerful feature on Photoshop. Okay. It also allows us to do something very important. What is that? It's called non-intrusive design. What does that mean? Non-intrusive design. It means you can have a layer, you can have your original photograph, and then you can take a copy of that layer and do some changes to that and see if you increase red color, what happens. If you increase a blue color, what happens, like that. Or you can apply certain effects to those channels and see what is going on without affecting the entire channel set, right? So that's a very, very important function. And we call it, in fact, the usage of this is called non-destructive editing, where you do not destroy the original picture. You apply filters and keep that effect outside your photograph. So anyone who has another tool can adjust your effects and see whether they like it or not, right? All right, so that's our first lesson on Photoshop, the layers. Right. Now, let's look at some of the other tools here. Now, we learned only one tool so far, isn't it? Let's look at another tool here, the move tool. For that, let me come back here and look at this letter S. I had to first select the appropriate the layer. Then I go to move tool. Okay. Remember, I have selected the S layer. I have selected here the move tool, and now I can use the mouse to move this letter anywhere I want. Why is that? Because they are in separate layers. For example, I can bring in S here, and then I can move the L to the first letter, LSTC. You see, I can do all that because I have layers. That's very, very important. Okay, so that's our second tool. I do have another layer here. So to that layer, I'm going to use another tool called the paint bucket. I think the paint bucket is over here somewhere. Here. So that is called the paint bucket. Now, it's just like the paint bucket. I can drop the bucket and paint this whole thing. So if I click anywhere here, there I got a black color. I can select any color I wish. So let's say light red. There, that's light red. And let's look at the layers. Well, if I turn off all the letters, that's my background. Okay. Now let's look at another tool. So I'm going to bring this back again. The eraser tool. Again, very, very important tool. You get something like, a big one. So if it is too big, you need to go here and reduce the size. There, right? So I'm going to go with this size. Okay. So let's say I want to erase some part from this picture. First, you need to check out which part you need to erase. So we have 4 letters. Which one to keep, which one to erase? Well, let's try with the S. And I selected the eraser tool here. Now see what happens when I erase. All right, that's gone, isn't it? So now if I want, I could redraw that using another color. Same layer, right? Same layer, but different color and also different diagram. It was not looking like an S previously. So that is also possible. So you notice we learned how to erase using the erase function. Okay, so we are slowly using the stuff from the left hand side and also from the right hand side. Okay, so once this lesson is over, I invite you to also try some of these things. I will be giving you a certain toolkit files where you can download, and you're supposed to unzip that and use the materials there in the class. So today, since we don't have access to that, we can't be doing that. Let me get another photograph and see what we can do other than drawing. Right. While it is loading, let me also go to my Photoshop file and try to create a new document, or maybe I can erase this whole thing, right? How do I erase these layers? Okay, now to do that, I need to go back to the layer window. Right, so I go to layer window here, and I can start deleting. So how do I delete? You can select a layer to delete and then press this icon. That is one way to delete. Are you sure? Yes. Other one is to drag this guy and drop it here. Drag. Drop. Okay. So I have this background pinkish kind of color here available for me. So I don't like that also. So I'm going to remove that, but create a new layer now. Okay. Let's look at these tools here. What are these tools? Okay. Now these ones are tools that allows us to draw shapes, like for example, rectangle. Now, how do I do that? Well, all you need to do is go to the place where you want to start the rectangle and then start dragging. Now here, I'm dragging and I'm dragging and I'm drawing a rectangle. When I take my hand away, it uses the color here to draw a rectangle. Right? Or these are rectangles. So I guess you can imagine what other layers may be doing, right? So let me draw circular ones. By the way, if you need a perfect rectangle or a circular, you need to use Shift key. Otherwise, you get things like this. Ellipses. If you need a perfect circle, you need to use a Shift key. All right. Those are called circles. Circle tool. Now, this is another interesting one. Rounded rectangle. There you go. Okay. So this has a rounded rectangle feature. It's a rectangle, but the corners are rounded. Right. Now you can adjust the radius, the round radius. Now let me change the color here. Now right now I given 50. Let's say I need 10 pixel radius. So that will give me a shorter angle, you see, or rather smaller angle. No? So you adjust it from here. Now I guess now you understand how we can use a top bar also. Right. So the radius I given 10 here. For this one, I had given 50 earlier. Okay. What about this guy here? Okay, so that looks like a very different person. Okay, should I use a different color? Okay, let me change this color to bright red, perhaps. Then I can draw a shape. There I have my shape. Now, where did the shape come from? Well, there is a shape library here. All kinds of shapes are available. And if you need more shapes, there is a little cogwheel here where you can load. These are called presets. You can load these shapes from the disk. So your Adobe generally comes with a good library of this kind of stuff also. Right? Let's see. I can have a dog left shot. Yeah. So I guess we now understand few tools. This one, moving tool, brush tool, eraser tool, and also how to create some content using these boxes here. Okay. Another important one, although we don't say it's a design element, but it is also a design element because we need it all the time. The text tool. Okay. The text tool allows us to type some things. For example, if I want to type something here, you just go and click it. Okay. And then you can move it anywhere you want by selecting the layer. Okay. And just like anything else, did you notice when I select it, I get font name, regular, with the font style, italic or bold or whatever. And then there is a font size, 0.18 here. And also there are a few other things we may not use it. And then here's the alignment, right? Left, center, or right alignment. Now, if you change any of that, you can press this one to apply the changes. Okay, so I suppose we learn few tricks with Photoshop, right? We learn the basics of the whole thing. And what is this hand doing here? Hand tool. So the hand tool is suitable when you have a larger image and where you want to go left and right, top and bottom, all that, you can use the hand. And okay, magnifying glass, I guess we know what it is. That is to zoom, zoom, zoom. So we need to cover selection tools. We need to cover effects, for example, and then we are done. By the way, when I zoom in, zoom in, zoom in, you see what I'm seeing? I see a bunch of boxes, right? That's the text. Okay. So this is also why we call it a pixel editing tool. We say Photoshop is a pixel editing tool. Right. Now, if you notice, I also loaded a photograph here. Now, by the way, I can do multiple loading. So this is one image, this is another image. I can jump and back and forth all over the place. Now, this looks like an okay picture. There is nothing required for me to edit here. That is because I downloaded an edited picture from the internet. So there's ice cream scoops, there is some green leaves, then that's in the middle, and then we have a lot of white space. What can I do to this photograph? Remember, we will adjust this photograph, but we don't know whether it is okay. So we need to show it to the customer. Customer might come back and say, no, improve blue here, improve red here, or make it black and white, things like that. So it is our interest, our job is to make sure when you're doing a job like this with open source, how do you come back to it? How do you, if there is a mistake or something, how do you come back? Generally, we keep editing this photograph until we get it, right? So that's very, very important. Having a consistency and also being able to experiment with various tools available out there. Right. I just shared a clip for you to have a look on Photoshop layers, and it's a very interesting one showing you various aspects of it, like the clipping mask and whatnot. So just have a quick run on that, and once you're done, please let me know you're done so that we can start our lesson again. It's in your chat window. Okay, I think one more tool we didn't do is the zoom tool. Yeah. Now zoom tool, you use it with the Alt key on the keyboard. So if I just select the zoom tool and go and click here, it will start zooming. So I can keep on clicking. You can see it's zooming through the whole thing until I can see these pixels. Similarly, if I use the Alt key and click the zoom, I am zooming away. There are also other shortcuts. Like for example, if you go to view, here you can see zoom in and zoom out, just like how you did it with the control plus minus. And then you can also select fit on screen like this. Or you can also select things like 100%. Here's a 100% version. Here is 200% version. And then we have print size. So when you print it, this is the size you're getting, pretty much like A4. Okay. So I like fit on screen. So I get the whole available entire space is taken by the photograph. All right. Fine. So today we are looking at, we rather looked at various aspects of Photoshop editing. Rather, actually, we didn't do editing. We were looking at creating things. So we started looking at movement. We look at brush. We look at boxes and things like that. Preset tools, we call it. And then we also learned the aspect of zooming in and zooming out. Now, remember in the beginning, I said the whole point of Photoshop is to do non-destructive editing, which means I play with layers, right? And each layer is on its own. So I can turn on and off different layers and get different effects, right? That's the whole point here. Right, so next week, we will look at editing photographs like this, for example, and see how we can do some non-destructive editing, meaning retain the photo without damaging, but change, right? Change for the better, enhance the colors, for example, or crop it or whatever, right? So we will see that next week. I will be uploading the recorded videos and the material to Moodle, so be on alert. Once it is done, I'll let you know. All right, I guess our time is up. I shall see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.